And I'm not saying his feelings aren't real, but...
You are. Welcome to the final episode of Love Island or Lie Island. Back with Judy James, body language expert. The show's over for another year, but there's still lots of body language for us to discuss. And I want to start with Greg and Amber, our king and queen of the Villa 2019. Let's watch the moment Caroline Flack crowned them.
Greg and Amber!
Was that genuine shock? What are your thoughts on it?
I absolutely think that it was. I mean, I think she realises that those two were pretty much cobbled together at the last minute.
That's Amber, you mean?
Yeah. And I think she was very grateful for having her rescuer come in and be charming, but I don't think they ever got any real chemistry going together. I mean, that date on the boat where they were just trying not to vomit over one another, it wasn't romantic. So I think she would have, for the first time, a winner would have been genuinely surprised. I bet she thought, yeah, you know, we're not really a fully fledged couple yet, or maybe ever. But I like the way that he held her hand up and went like that, because she won that.
Yeah.
That was Greg, I'm sure, is an amazing guy on another planet somewhere. I'm sure he's got lots of depth to his character. But that was her win, and it was good because she was the only one that had been there all the way through, wasn't she, as well? So,
do you think there was an element of relief from his point of view as well?
Yeah, I mean, he was able to celebrate because I think he was really excited. She was a little bit get off me. I don't know if you noticed.
Do you think?
You know, she was facing front, and he kind of honed into view, and she opened him. She actually looked like she was going to be sick all over him at that point, but he was trying to contain her a bit and kiss her and do all the usual. Yeah. And I think she wanted to be very much kind of in her own moment at that moment. I think that's appropriate. You know, I love the fact that she wasn't going to do a showmance just for the cameras. I mean, whether they will now have to, good luck to them.
Yeah. You suggested last week that Amber probably isn't that into Greg. I think she's been pretty open and honest about the fact that she keeps her emotions quite close to her chest. Does her body language say anything else, though?
What worries me, and I'm going to get my wagging finger out a bit here, because we're not really seeing Amber anymore. You know, we're seeing this, and this has happened to all of those three women in the final. They went in, Maura, Amber, and even Molly-Mae, feisty, confident, strong women, and they got reduced, and whether it was because they had to do it to win or whatever, in which case it's genuinely annoying and upsetting, they all became surrendered women. And the Amber that we saw, whether it was Michael that kind of, like a dementor, sucked the marrow out of her bone, I don't know, but I wouldn't even recognise that Amber from the one that we saw at the start, who could pick lies out and pick people. She was forensic, you know, she would spot rubbish a mile off. And now we've got this rather sweet girl, and the same with the other two as well. They all had to go down the route of suddenly becoming demure and giggly, and that is a very bad thing that Love Island is showing us, I think, right now.
Do you think the fact that she did, like you said, at this moment, kind of tried to keep herself to herself, is a sign that she still has that fiery person in her?
I really hope so. Yeah. And the bit that I did sit there, and my moment at the end, apart from, oh, great, I can go to bed now, was the way, did you see her with Ovie? Because I love it when they all kind of disassemble after the win. These two split up, and yes, it was Ovie that came over. And suddenly I thought we saw the real Amber. She just went, oh my goodness, she collapsed into his arms. You know, they hugged one another, she looked genuinely happy. And I'm not saying that there's a romance going on there, I wish there were. They would have been the ideal couple. But I think that is where I began to see the old Amber, able to be herself and not have to play up this surrendered, I'm in love, what's his name, I can't remember it, kind of woman just to win.
Yeah. I want to take a look at Tommy and Molly-Mae's reaction to losing. They were kind of expected to win and were always safe in the public votes. So let's just watch the clip.
Tommy and Molly-Mae, well done, Ovie and our runners-up. You've been incredible. How are you feeling?
So happy. She had such a hard time in here. She deserves everything that's coming to her.
And your winners anyway, look at you. Tommy and Molly-Mae, everybody!
There's a lot of shaking heads and animation. Was there anything in there that sort of suggested disappointment to you from them, or?
I think they're pretty good, those two, I have to say. I mean, clearly, you could see that her smile went from a kind of genuinely excited smile to what I call a lollipop stick smile, where it looks like she's had to put a bit of wood in her mouth. And good for her. Who can blame them? I mean, they had worked so hard to create a win. And they must have thought that it was an absolute shoo-in for them. I mean, I'm sure they'll still be the couple that most of the interest will be in terms of shows between the two of them and everything like that. But the only thing I would say, and I don't really get these two as a couple, to be honest. I mean, but they're good. They're very good. But she immediately snaked her arm around his waist again. So they didn't kind of fall apart with open faces of disgust like you might have imagined if they'd have just made it all up. So they're clearly going to still present very much as a very tight couple. And I think they'll get massive amounts of publicity. And good for them. They did a good show, a very good show.
Molly has been accused across the series of being fake. Is there anything in her language that says to you she is being fake? Is there anything that makes you...
No, I don't quite get them as a couple. No, sorry, take the word quite out. I don't get them as a couple. I think for me it's been what's been missing rather than what we've been seeing. So their body language has always looked pretty good. But we haven't seen, you know, the kind of... They've been together for weeks now. There's not been one argument about him leaving the toilet seat up or all the kind of settling in that people have to do. They've just completely... And I have to say with Tommy, it's not just Molly either. Tommy has been like that, and I think we saw it in the clips that they showed. He's kind of been like that about every woman that he's been nearly coupled up. Oh, you know, she's completely my type, 100% my type. You know, I will send you 1,000 roses and everything. It's kind of point him in a direction and he'll do that. And I'm not saying his feelings aren't real, but...
You are.
No, come on, he's Tyson Fury's brother. Of course his feelings are real.
India and Ovie came third, which I think surprised many, actually. They're both relatively new to the villa, but they have been the most chill, I think, couple, and probably the couple that recognise the newness of the romance out of everyone. I want to watch their declaration of love from last night's episode.
You've cheered me up, made me smile. You changed this whole experience for me, more than you even realise.
You are literally the fittest human I have ever seen. But I couldn't have prepared myself for what comes with it. You're so kind, caring, and considerate. You've proven to me that chivalry is not dead.
I feel like India has quite a lot of slow blinking. Like, what does that tell us about her and her thoughts?
When you get rapid blink rate, that means adrenaline and maybe somebody's lying. Slow blinking to the way that she's doing it could just be romantic, but it could also be used as a cut-off if she didn't want to maybe let him see her eye expression or the cameras to see it. Yeah. I think they had to over-declare, didn't they, with her in particular? I mean, again, who would really expect them to be deeply in love like that right now? Yeah. So, again, they did it quite well. He's very good at the look of love, and I think his whole face-softening expressions were very convincing. And they were probably, out of all of the couples in the final, they were almost the most... He was very good at being tactile with her. She was very much playing for the cameras and doing the glamour model bit. But they did well. But I think there's got to be moments when you've got to declare like that to win, but you're maybe not really feeling it, that maybe she would have... I won't let you see my eyes at this moment. Yeah. I'll come back when it's a slightly less over-the-top moment. I thought Ovie was excellent, though.
He has quite a deep stare, I feel like. Is that a sign of openness?
Well, it would be. I mean, if they were forming as a couple, that could be trying to find out whether she really meant what she was saying. It's like when a couple first date, they go out usually for a meal together over a small table and gaze into another's eyes, and they're trying to assess feelings. If he was doing that, though, that must mean that he feels something. You know, the fact that he's trying to find out whether she means it or not at that late stage in the game, I think he probably does have feelings for her.
Yeah. When they were talking to Caroline after they were announced as the third couple, they were also sat quite closely as well. Was that... Did that stand out to you compared to the other couples, or?
Yeah, I mean, again, they look very relaxed together. She stopped, as opposed to the publicity shot, she stopped playing to the camera quite so much at that point. I think she was selling her glamour self in some of the shots. But no, they relax quite easily into one another. I think it's a lot down to Ovie, but she's not uncomfortable with that either. And they look genuinely, I have to say, they looked as though they genuinely didn't care that they hadn't won. And that almost implied that they were quite happy together. I'm not going to be convinced. I'm still going to wear my cynical hat. But they, of all of the couples, look like, yeah, it doesn't matter, weren't expecting to. And we've got lives to go back to. We're quite happy.
The fourth couple,
favourite.
Maura and Curtis, it's quite big to talk about. They came fourth, but I thought they had really interesting body language at the end when they were talking to Caroline. There was a bit of a gap between them, even though Curtis had his arm around her.
Yes.
What did that tell us?
I love... Maura is not a liar with her body language. I think that was especially... She looked absolutely... face like a slapped what's-it and good for her. Good for her. I mean, she put all of that work in, looking like this, with that merciless giggle that she'd acquired, that obviously she was just counting the days until it finished. Good luck to her for playing that role, because that was a really tough one with Curtis, I have to say. But boy, did the makeup and, like the stage makeup start to slip off at the end there. And when they sat down, they kind of bobbed around a bit, and I'm sure she bobbed away from him slightly. So they got this large spatial gap. But you could see that Curtis was just like a clockwork toy. The minute he got asked questions by Caroline, it was all me, me, me. I want to tell you what happened to me, and I did this and I did that. And you could see Maura kind of looking at him and doing a metronomic foot gesture that was a sign of impatience or annoyance. So I think his days are numbered with him.
I'm really keen to talk about Maura's mum. She came in, obviously, when the parents entered the villa. Let's watch this clip.
Yeah, what do you think of Curtis? He's nice. I'm trusting your judgment, and I know you're not a bad judge of character. And there's obviously something you see in him.
Yeah.
I've never, ever turned around and said to you, I don't trust your judgment. I do.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
And if you're happy, I'm happy.
We always said that Michael had a poker face, but I think Maura's mum has the best poker face. Is she struggling to hold her real emotions in here? Do you think she's telling the truth with what she's saying to Maura?
It's what mums do, isn't it? I mean, the truth came out, A, in the length of the pause before she answered. B, she's got a cushion there, like, don't hate me for this. And that lovely bit where she clearly partly knows that if she says the wrong thing, her daughter will not win the £50,000, but at the same time, she ain't going to lie to her daughter. And I think there's that wonderful tactful moment. I think all mums have done it at some stage, which is kind of, as long as you like them, it's like, and you could see Maura's face. I mean, if Maura wanted to send out a note at that point saying, please don't, because you've just blown my entire act out of the water. She wasn't telling Maura anything she didn't know. And Maura's face, I think, went into reflective mode, like, now what do I do?
Do you think Maura picked up very quickly that her mum wasn't maybe as impressed with Curtis as she'd hoped?
Oh, absolutely. And listen, mums and daughters, and they're clearly incredibly close, those two. They would have both known anyway. Right. So it was really going to be whether mum did what they normally do on this, which I absolutely loathe, which is where they know that the partner is clearly, patently the worst thing that they could have ever copped off with. And they come, I'm so proud of you, you make such a... And all that cheese that normally happens. I love this because this was honest. And it probably could have gone further, but it was a wonderful moment of tactful honesty between two women who clearly, through kinetic energy that mothers and daughters have, knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely knew what was going on. It was just... I think the parents were hilarious this season.
Was there any other parents that you thought had particularly telling body language?
Curtis's mum pointing to Maura's bum tattoo. I mean, you don't do things like that, really. It's not very nice. I think the only one that tried to play the game was Molly's... Not Molly. Whose dad was it?
Bell's dad?
Bell's dad.
Yeah.
Who clearly wanted to stay in villain mode. He's an actor, you know, slapping him on the shoulder, you look after my girl. I think he got very short shrift with the camera. But I think the other ones were delightfully naturalistic, I think, and a little bit aghast at who their kids had copped off with.
Do you think Maura's mum will tell Maura the truth about her feelings now that the cameras are off?
Oh, absolutely. But it will be, Maura will know anyway. You know, Maura will not be surprised. I can see those two just going off together. Oh, I know, you know, what are you saying? I did try, Mum, you know, yeah, but, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you know, I think, whose mum was it that went straight after Ovie?
Maura's mum.
Yeah, absolutely. But Maura knew that anyway, you know. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, Curtis. I love that. And it was what I think everybody at home was thinking as well. They should let the public match them up next year, please. After about 2 weeks of the show, let us have a dabble in there and we'll get some good...
That's such a great idea.
We'll get some good pairings going there.
Maura has been one of the strongest Islanders this year, whether you love her or hate her, and she kept the attention on her even at the very end. I just want to watch this.
Greg and Ovie!
What was that face all about?
I don't know whether she forgets the camera's on her. She probably thought that they'd only be on the winners, but she was doing this really loser's face and not happy about it. But clearly there was a lot of noise that she wasn't maybe expecting, so maybe she thought that was a bit false. Right. Looked really quite annoyed. She looked as though she was at an opera and somebody else was being a bit too noisy. And as you say, the only thing that she had to do to keep the cameras on her was to use natural body language. That's how rare it is on that show. And that's why it was so beguiling when we saw it. And in a way, that's one of the reasons why she's kind of been maybe my main favourite, I think, of the series.
Do you think we're reading too much into that face then? Do you think it is perhaps more about the noise coming to her left and like, oh, what's happening? Or do you think there is an element of disgust of the winner?
She'd got the face on before. And I think, you know, she's spent how many weeks in there smiling and pretending and being this surrendered woman at the end and that fake giggle that she was having to do. I think we should allow the muscles to drop and give her old face a bit of a rest and just go for that. I wish they would all do it. It would be so wonderful if sort of some of them just turned around and said, oh, if we've not won, you can whatever, I hate you anyway. And wouldn't it have been absolutely wonderful if Amber had won with Michael and completely spun him along and then taken all of the £50,000? Why were we not allowed that one? That would have been, I would have been whistling and hooting at the set.
Who do you think out of these 4 final couples will be the first to split?
Oh, the first, all right. Depends what offers they get, and it has to depend. You know, their agents will be waving things at them the minute they come off set, and there will be moments where they'll go, oh, I was gonna, but yeah, okay, you know. But it would be Maura and Curtis otherwise. But if they've got good offers, I think the offers will come in for Curtis and Tommy. I think that would be a much more compatible match for a television programme, you know. Curtis with his sequins at the boxing ring and then Tommy trying to learn to ballroom dance. I'm sure that'd be very tempting.
We've had 9 episodes of this now over the last 8 weeks. Who has surprised you the most?
Oh, that is a really good question. I think I was very surprised by Ovie for going in there and just being himself. I don't think I've ever seen that before on the show. And when he turned up, I actually thought he might be a bit boring, a bit too cool. But he wouldn't even say, I've got a text. And thank God, I'm so annoyed by that phrase. I change the formula, please. Or, you know, it won't be a risk anymore. Yeah. People will. It was great, but not another session of listening to a lot of those cliches. So yeah, I like the way that he cut through all the cliches. He stood out for me. He had some good natural body language, but he still did well, and I think that bodes well for the next series. Yeah.
And who do you think has been lying to us over the last 8 weeks?
Lying, I never say people are lying, but I would call out Curtis for putting in a really good performance that wasn't quite convincing.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's it for another year. Hopefully we'll be back next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.